We are adding magazines to our collage center, and I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can use those magazines to make art. The first thing you can do is you can flip through the magazine and find any pages that might make a good background. So I saw these two pages and I like them. I think I'm going to go with this one, and I'm going to be gluing it onto this paper. But first, I need to cut off the parts where there are words. I don't want the words to be on my artwork. So I'm just going to use my scissors and cut a line. And I could also trim off this part, but instead of covering up those symbols, or instead of cutting off those symbols, I'm going to choose to cover them up with my other parts of my collage. Now that I've glued down my background paper onto my bigger paper, I'm going to trim off this torn edge. And the best way to do that is to flip your paper over and use the side of your construction paper as a guide so that you can get it cut straight and even. I've already gone through a magazine and picked out some pictures that I would like to use in my collage. I'm going to show you a trick for cutting out those pictures. There are three different steps to this trick. So the first step is you need to rough cut your picture out. So I'm going to use my scissors and just kind of cut around it roughly, and then that way I can get rid of all of this paper. I can put that in the blue little trash can at my table. Now that I have it cut out to a smaller size, I'm gonna cut from this part of my scissors. If I cut from that very bottom corner, that's where I'm gonna have the most control. And then the last step to this trick is that when you're cutting, I don't want you to turn your hand in a weird, awkward direction in order to cut a different part. Keep your hand comfortable and turn your paper. So you're going to keep your hand in a position that's comfortable, and then you're going to turn your paper in order to cut it out. And that's going to make it a lot easier to cut those tricky parts. Notice that I'm really taking my time. I'm cutting right on the edge of the picture that I'm trying to cut out. I'm not leaving any white spaces. That's going to make my collage look a lot more realistic and a lot more interesting when I glue my pieces down. So I've got all of my pieces cut out and I already glued down my biggest piece. I made sure to glue the straight edge of my magazine picture along the straight edge of my artwork. That way that kind of line where her legs end doesn't look weird or awkward. Now I'm ready to glue down my other pieces, and before I glue the piece that I chose to use as her head, I'm gonna kind of check it and make sure that I can get it to match up in the way that I'm imagining. So I see that the edge of the body ends there, so I'm gonna actually change the neck and the shoulder so that it'll match. This is gonna make it look a little bit more convincing to have those edges line up. Now that I'm ready to glue it down, I'm gonna flip my piece over onto the newspaper, and I'm gonna put glue all over that picture. I don't want to have any flippy floppy, so I'm gonna make sure that all of the paper has glue on it, and then I can glue it where I want it to go on my artwork. I would do the same thing with the dog, and remember I said that I was gonna leave that because I didn't want to lose that much space. So instead of cutting out those little pictures that I don't need, I'm gonna just place a picture right on top of it. So that's a good thing to do. Like with this background, I could have just chosen to put something on top of those words instead of having to cut them out. Another interesting way that you can use magazines in a collage is not to look for pictures, but just to look for colors. So I've cut out a bunch of pieces that have different shades of blue because I want to fill this triangle of my artwork in with blue. One of the pieces does have some words or some letters on it, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off those words because I don't want the words to be distracting. Then I am going to glue this piece onto my triangle. I'm going to flip it over, use the newspaper so I don't get any glue on the table, and line it up with my triangle. Now I just noticed that that edge goes a little bit off. So because I have a little bit of time, I haven't pressed it down all the way, I can pick it back up and line it up so that it matches. Some of these pieces I might choose to cut a little bit smaller, and I could glue that piece there, and then I could trim one of these pieces to fit into the leftover space on that side of the triangle.